Hi, welcome to our documentary. Our documentary is going to encompass the different aspects of farming and farming in general, not just around the world or in the US, but also in Kentucky. Kentucky was originally founded on June 1st, 1792. Kentucky has over 85,300 farms, with an average farm size around 164 acres. The total farmland is 13.9 million acres. That's a lot of land. Even today, going down 42 on the way home, there's a lot of farmland. Now, does that mean that most farms are successful? Not really. You'd be surprised how many farmers are actually struggling and/or in poverty. It's a hard life for farming, and in this documentary, we're going to touch the basics. Right now, you can see me going onto the Kentucky Farming and Agriculture website for the Department of Agriculture. This website has a lot of information about farming in general and what Kentucky does for the farmers, such as license, registration, and even programs that it provides. These are some of the different sponsors that the website and department have. Most of them have to do with farming. However, another one has to do with, getting active in the community. The website has the license and laws for different types of agriculture, many of which are very in-depth and sometimes aren't really fair for most farmers, as much as the government tries to make it. Not all the time will people be represented the way they want to. You can also check the website for news and different events coming up. Here you can see the different categories of farming, such as animals, programs, and promotional programs. Now here you can see a lot of the staff that are involved in the department and what categories they're selected into. Many different people on here have their emails, their phone numbers, and what locations they're at and what departments and offices. It's really nice. Here's one of our group members' farms. They recorded around their land and the different animals that they have. One of the animals that they have are chickens and hens. Let's see what she says about them.
Chickens. Hello, my lovelies. So we have 6 chickens, and each produces 1 egg a day, which is quite a sustainable food source, actually, without even having to kill all the chickens. And they eat a lot of our table scraps that aren't real too unhealthy and chock full of salt and such. Any plant stuff that we don't eat, they get to nibble on, and they enjoy that.
Thanks, Amanda. You'd really have to be insane to not like those chickens. Livestock and livestock products account for half of Kentucky's farm income. Livestock such as chickens, cows, and calves are one of the top agricultural commodities around. In 2008, there was quite the spike for it. In the financial side of livestock and agriculture, livestock is one of the most productive ways to gain more cash and income, rather than buying seeds and pesticides. Now let's go back to Amanda, where she's interviewing Danielle Burkhead about horses.
How big would you say is the horse industry in Kentucky?
It's huge. It's basically what a lot of Kentucky is based on. Because every single time someone comes out here from a different state, they're astonished with how many horse farms we have around, and you can't really go anywhere without seeing it.
Now, we're going to look more into the financial realm of farming, along with the other parts of farming, such as the history and the social side of it, such as the market. Now, the market and finance go together in the same way. The only difference is marketing and the social life are two different things, but finance and the market are two completely different things. This might make no sense at all, and well, good. Now, the main part that you should know about financing and farming is that there's something called the treadmill effect. The treadmill effect pretty much stops small farmers from overtopping big farmers. This is because the big farmers have a much wider variety of seeds and livestock and different types of equipment. This allows them to hold a monopoly on the marketing for the farming, getting the interest of big corporations. Like if you think about McDonald's. If you look at their farms, you can clearly see that the livestock of cows, chickens, and other types of animals and crops, like corn, have a much bigger production rate than small farmers would. Small farmers are pretty much restricted to the individual selling at farmers markets, which are very common. Nothing is wrong with selling at farmers markets though. A lot of farmers get most of their profit off of this. The only difference between big farmers and small farmers is that small farmers will be in a lot of debt and loans. This prevents small farmers from getting anywhere near the larger farmers. Now on the social side of farming, farmers need to be able to sell their product because there's so many other products just like theirs. This can go through either what types of pesticides they use or how they grow their crops. Farming is a very interesting playing ground in the marketing standpoint. The historical standpoint is a lot simpler to understand. Farming has been around way before the English came to America. The Native Americans would grow corn, tobacco, and other types of crops using decomposition methods. They passed this over to the English once they got here. Pretty much technology advanced, and now the selling of hybrid seeds and pesticides is the most common method. Big farmers are able to dominate with this too, using a lot cleaner pesticides and a lot cleaner soil, and having larger lands to use it with. Farming is pretty much the biggest unfair playing ground, and most people don't really recognize how this is going on without them, really understanding. If everyone's selling against monopolies, why is there a huge monopoly in farming? That's because of cheap prices. If farming were to be allowed by anyone, especially the small farmers, then prices of fast food and other types of foods would rise. One day in the future, there will be a day when whole foods will be lower than fast foods, but that day is a long time away. Different types of farmers are common throughout Kentucky. There are dominating markets, and then there are struggling markets. Let's look at one of the interviews by the owner of Fox Hollow Farms and her view on the whole financial side. So, how long have you been farming in particular?
So this farm has been in our family since the 40s, the
Oh.
1940s. Now our family has not always been hands-on farming, but we have leased the land to farmers. It's been many things. So I came on board in 2006. That's when the decision making for this land came to my generation. And so it had been a conventional farm before that. But in 2006, that's when we went cold turkey and went organic and biodynamic. That's when I stepped in, 2006. So that's 9 years.
Would you guys consider yourselves big farmers, and like the corporate side, or would you consider yourselves small farmers still?
Oh, definitely small farmers. We only process about 60 to 70 animals a year, which is nothing compared to the conventional farming.
And how do you feel about big farmers? Do you feel like they have more of a monopoly over the market, or do you feel like everyone's equal?
Well, this is a good question. I mean, I think it depends on what area you're working with. I definitely think that the government subsidies for the big corn crops, etc., grain crops, make it so that the small farmer, especially organic farmer, it's more difficult because we don't get the subsidies. As far as the corporate versus the small farmer, I think that there can be room for both, but I think we need to be treated equally.
How do you feel about the overpricing of more whole foods compared to fast food sort of items?
Very depressing, I would say, very discouraging. If we could somehow make the policies, equally support both or not support either one so that just the public supports it at the real cost, I think that would be a better way to go forward. Because right now, the reason these bigger corporations can give you a meal for $3.99, there's all kinds of government subsidies, and of course the bulk prices that they can get. So I think that I don't have the answer, but I know there is a solution out there to make it equal playing field, which it's not right now.
Even Fox Hollows is threatened by monopolies of large farmers. Now let's take a look into the views that society has on farmers and how they have changed over the years. We will look at what the farmers that we got to interview say about how they think people have changed over time. Notice how both of their replies are different.
How do you think society views farmers today?
Well, they probably don't really appreciate some of the facets of farming, and I think the people that do it and have had the luxury of growing up on farms, I think they see it as being really a great life. But people that have never been subjected to it, they probably see it as being, I won't say a lower class vocation, but to some degree I think people kind of look down on it that way.
How do you feel like society views farmers and farming in general?
I think it's changing. I think that people are starting to realize that if you really, want to know what's in your food, you can be pretty guaranteed if it's a smaller operation and the farmer really lives there and sees the crops and takes special care, hands-on.
Farmers usually participate in things called farmers markets. The owner of Fox Hollows, Miss Newton, has people who lease her land and then they go and sell their products at the farmers markets and make profits off of them. This is both beneficial for the landowner and for the seller. They both gain money from the land and from their resources. Most of society views farmers as either in poverty or pretty well off. This varies upon different farmers and their views on the whole issue. Another major issue with farming is the environment. Due to many environmental disasters or events, farming can become really difficult. By events, I mean droughts and floods. These two events in nature can cause disasters for farmers, delaying crops, killing crops, and even destroying their farm. Natural disasters are the #1 reason why most farmers quit farming. In the end, you can see that farmers today go through a lot just to make ends meet. Most farmers are pretty well off. Society views farmers as either poor, rich, or usually just as ghosts. They don't really recognize what's going on deep down in the country. This is why Kentucky is so important. We're not only here for our horses and our bourbon, but we're here for our farms. Farming is the #1 thing that has kept humans alive. As a stable source of resources and food, it is the backbone of society. These are the people that keep us going. There is so much more that we could have talked about, such as how the farmers continue on with their farming and how they can manage their land by leasing it off to other people, and how the farmer markets work. Right now, the best thing you can do is go to farmers markets and purchase their food and make a better food choice than eating out at a fast food restaurant. It'll help change the tide for whole food sales, making them lower than the price of fast food. Help America. Help you.
She's doing it a little bit.
Come on, shoot. Hey, Grace.
Hi, Brian.
One thing we forgot to mention in the video, because we never got to ask any of the interviewees, but that was about tobacco. In recent years, tobacco has slowly begun to drop due to legalization of marijuana and the new product of e-cigs. Tobacco prices are lowering daily, and honestly, most of the people that we have researched and that we have interviewed, when we brought up the question, they said that tobacco will soon hold no price anymore, which is a big drop for Kentucky, since most Kentucky farmers are known for growing tobacco. So there's going to be a major change in what type of crops are grown in Kentucky and the seasons of growing these crops, because tobacco does actually help some of the soil that it is grown on, and it helps with the making of some other products like soybeans and corn. So tobacco, that's going to go down, and that's going to really affect the Kentucky farming market. The best thing that they can do now, which I asked Miss Newton of Fox Hollow Farms, is that to become sustainable, self-sustainable with a mixture of organic and livestock, so that way you can limit your resources of buying outside and reserve more on the inside. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed our documentary.